Hey guys, how's it going and welcome to the Minute channel, and today we are finally reviewing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And please if you could thumbs up the video and like I don't know, comment on, on this particular video or something. Every video that is not Persona just doesn't get views. I don't know if because of my channel type or anything like that, but when it's not Persona video it just doesn't get any views. I don't like this video to kind of get shown to the public or whatever. But anyway, let's go ahead and start this video. And I'm sorry, I know this is super late. Everybody already finished the game and everything like that. I work a full-time job and it's just kind of hard to just like finish the game and everything like that. But yeah, it is happened. It's good. And let's go ahead and start it. There's a lot to talk about. Like always, I'm gonna break this into separate sections. That'll be just the story, gameplay, the performance of the game, and just the overall fun of the experience and everything. But let's go ahead and start it with the story. And this is a really good story, a good Star Wars story. I may add to this because it makes a difference to me a whole lot. The story of Jedi Fallen Order starts with Cal Kestis, who is a former Padawan. He was somebody that survived through the events of Order 66, and this is just kind of the post aftermath of what's going on and everything. From then on, we see Cal, who is just kind of like living life in this trash planet where they just kind of break down ships and parts and that kind of stuff. And you see that he's forced to use the Force in a situation, and from then on, just things go down spiral. He gets thrown into this whole thing where he's being persecuted by the Inquisitors from the Empire. He joins this small group of rebels. I don't know if they're particular rebels, but they do definitely fight against the Empire as well. And he just has his own mission, and I think this is a really good story because there's a lot of story bits here that really resemble what Star Wars is about and everything. You get to go to all these different planets, and the whole thing is finding these clues about this new hope for the Jedi Order, because the Jedi Order was failed during the Order 66. So Cal's mission in a sense is to rebuild the Order, and you see all of this stuff that happens. There's a lot of throwbacks to what happened through the Clone Wars. There's a lot of stuff that happened through Order 66 and everything like that, and all of this is really well implemented within the story. Since the beginning of the story, it just has a really good pacing overall. It just makes you feel like you're in that Star Wars universe. All the characters have a lot of references, a lot of things to the Star Wars universe as a whole, whether it's the Clone Wars or the Empire, or everything that is going on currently in the Star Wars universe. And it's good to see a lot of the callbacks for different shows and movies and everything like that. So in that aspect, it was really well there. If I have one criticism overall the story, I will say that the story doesn't do a lot for the protagonist, even though the story is about the protagonist, about somebody going through the process of becoming a Jedi, a formal Jedi from being a Padawan, and the whole experience of Cal going through the transition. I think is really well executed. However, I felt that I couldn't really relate to Cal because, well, there's a lot of different interesting details about him, his master, his past, what happened. Overall, Cal just doesn't show a lot of emotion in certain parts, and it can be a little bit intriguing or interesting, except that it just doesn't do anything with it particularly. We know that he does suffer some kind of PTSD from the moment that he went through Order 66, and it's just interesting to see that dynamic with him and several other characters like Sarah in the story. But I do think that the dynamic within one of the other characters and the main villain is extremely interesting. I think that the story did a really good job on kind of portraying that relationship that they have and everything like that, and it really just build up a good tension, a good what's gonna happen next kind of thing. Oh, I want to know more about this part of the story, and this was really extremely well executed. Overall, the story was really well done. I think I will give the story 9 out of 10. I think that it really nailed the Star Wars feel, and it really nailed everything that it means to kind of be a Jedi. I think that they nailed that really well in this particular game. But moving on into the gameplay, and the gameplay is kind of like has some criticisms and some props at the same time. One thing that the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order did It's kind of, they were able to kind of merge different genres of game together, whether it's like the Metroidvania style of gameplay, put with the Uncharted like exploration where you are platforming from one area to another one, to the combat, which is really similar to the Dark Souls games or Sekiro, that kind of gameplay and everything like that. And you just gotta merge those three together. Now, I don't particularly think that this merge of these works as well as they intended to. One of the biggest things for me is that this game particularly has a lot of platforming, and not just a little bit, it's a lot. And as I mentioned on one of my previous videos before about Jedi Fallen Order, is that I think that there is a lot of disconnect between when you're doing through a story piece and then these platforming areas that you have to go to the next area and everything like that. Some of them have me explain were repetitive, especially when there is no way for you to kind of just skip from area to area. You can't teleport, I guess, from area to area, which is something that it was severely missed in a game like this one. There's a lot of backtracking, there's a lot of going to the same areas over and over and over again, and this game can extend a lot of this gameplay because of that, especially if you're somebody like me that likes to collect things. I'm somebody that likes to go to the different areas to search every nook and cranny to get every single lightsaber part and everything like that, and that is something that I do think that like affects the pacing of the overall story. I do like it a whole lot. Now, this is something that is not every game has this particular kind of thing where the gameplay will affect parts of the story, especially with big games that are kind of like open world type of games. Even though this one is not particularly open world, you can see where a lot of the areas just get affected because of the story and everything like that. So this kind of disconnect there. The platforming is not perfect, there's a lot of issues with it, but the combat is really good, and I think that's where they nail that part of that feels like Star Wars. The force is limited as far as what you can do and everything, but overall when you develop this character more and everything, he starts developing a lot of different force attacks and a lot of force movement that you can do and everything like that, and I really do appreciate this kind of stuff. That's the kind of things that made me really like a whole lot within the combat and everything. Makes me feel really interested to all the stuff that he does and everything like that. I really do appreciate those small details and everything. Really well done on that part. And the last part, which is kind of like the map, because even though there's a lot of traversal, you can discover a lot of different stuff, the map really doesn't work for me. It's one of the things that just don't work for me in the overall story, in the overall gameplay, especially with the platforming and being kind of like a Metroidvania style. I would have preferred a 2D map to this one, but this one does the job, I guess, but it's not as good as I wished it to be, especially because you can't put custom markers and stuff. Maybe you would like to custom mark a specific path that you found or something like that, and might be a little bit easier for you. Things like that would make the game a lot better, I think, overall. Even though I extremely enjoy the game and extremely enjoy the experience of the gameplay, I think that's one thing that could be improved for a few sequels or whatever they're gonna do next. Overall, I think the gameplay was really fun, really addictive. Finding all these cool ponchos that you can find or pieces for your lightsaber, that is extremely addictive gameplay style that you can just find more and more pieces and everything like that, and it makes it really fun. I think that was one of the best parts about it, just finding all the different lightsaber weapons and the different colors, variety and everything like that. It was one of the best things that I had in a particular game. Overall, I want to give gameplay an 8 out of 10. Even though I did have some issues with it, I found to be extremely addictive. The combat is really fun, and I think that the experience overall is really well for the gameplay. I think I really like that. Now let's talk about performance. And in performance, I'm going to talk about three different things. I want to talk about how the game looks, music, and the actual performance of the game itself. And overall, the game looks really good. It doesn't look like the best game ever or anything like that, but what they do here is extremely good when it comes to all the scenery that you see. Everything just feels much like Star Wars, and I can really appreciate where they're coming from with everything. It is really well made, and I really enjoy just looking at everything. There's a lot of screenshots that I took of all the different places that I visited and everything, just because it looks so cool. Everything that I saw still was things that I liked to see, and I can say that that was my favorite part out of everything. That was my favorite part. The music is really good. They were able to kind of combine the John Williams original soundtrack for Star Wars with a few new tracks here and there and everything like that. Those don't work quite as well as John Williams. It's really difficult to match. John Williams is just genius when it comes to music, but I think they were able to do a pretty okay job as far as the new tracks and everything like that. It does still feel like Star Wars. It still sounds like Star Wars, and that's what's important, I think. But when those notes hits, when you hear certain parts and everything, I think they did an amazing job with that, and it nails certain parts of the story really well. So I'll say this, the music overall is really good, and as far as the performance of the actual game is mixed. There are some planets where you have no issues whatsoever. There are some planets where, oh boy, you have a lot of glitches and a lot of stuff. Dathmir, for example, I think is like a little half cooked or a little bit undercooked in the areas. There are some areas where there's just some pop-ins, just things will pop up here and there. Creatures will automatically just like pop out of nowhere and that kind of stuff like that. I saw that a lot. There was an area where I was grinding and I noticed that quite often when I was happening. The pop-ins will also come in a lot of different textures, especially when you are going on the customization area or you're trying to look at your lightsaber or the parts of the poncho or the ship or anything like that. You'll see those pop-ins coming all the time when it comes to those textures. It just takes kind of like a second or two to load and everything, and they look really ugly. Some of them look really bad, but overall the game looks really good. I think that the performance doesn't interfere with the actual gameplay. I never had any issues of game breaking bugs or anything like that, so I think that overall will give performance a 9 out of 10. Not the best looking game ever, but I think that it does the job, and it does a really good job being it. And the fanboy in me just has to say this is a really fun game. If you're a Star Wars fan, you're definitely gonna nail the feeling of Star Wars is here. Being a Jedi and everything that comes with it is here and more. I really thought this game was gonna be okay. I was expecting it to be really good, but I thought it was gonna be an okay game, and it exceeded my expectations to that aspect. I will say fun is definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. Adding all those points will give you to about a 9 out of 10, and that's what I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Technically speaking, this should be like an 8.5 out of 10, 8 out of 10, but being a fanboy, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 myself, but I can see people giving it an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10. It does have some issues, it does have some things that you should work on a little bit more for the next game and everything like that, but overall the experience of the Star Wars is there, and that's what's important to a Star Wars fan. Just get that experience of being a Jedi, going through this transition. The story is really well executed. There's a lot of parts that make you feel like Star Wars. Certain callbacks, certain characters that you see, everything just has the Star Wars feel, and it's the best part about this game. Guys, this is a really good time to be a Star Wars fan. New movies coming out soon. We have the TV show The Mandalorian right now. We have the game right now. It's a really good time. I'm having an excellent time here. But guys, what do you guys think about this game? You played it so far. If you're new, please consider liking and subscribing, and let me know what you guys think about this. Did you play the game? Have you unplayed it yet? Does this review make you want to play it? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you next time.